some data that I was looking at says that healthcare in Africa sends people back to poverty.
Yes.
So the way I see insurance is, I see insurance as that thing that will prevent you from going back to poverty.
Okay.
And for a lot of us in Kenya, in Africa, poverty is here. Yeah? That one blip, that one life occurrence
That's it.
sends you right back.
Yeah. Responsible about the present and cognizant of the future. What was that? Responsible of the present and
Thoughtful about the future.
And thoughtful about the future.
got it. Truth be told, Charlene, the insurance industry has been a male-dominated business, particularly in the leadership.
Truth be told, Mali, mambo yabadilika.
Vindu vichenjanga.
Vitu vichenjanga. In the recent past, we have seen women in insurance claiming their rightful places as captains of our industry.
Yes.
We have seen women in insurance taking up their spaces in the corner offices of the biggest underwriters in the market. And today, here at the TBT podcast, we are joined by one of the most brilliant leaders in the Kenyan insurance industry. Please help me in welcoming the incomparable Gwen Kinisu,
Ish.
the CEO of Prudential Life Assurance, Kenya Limited.
Eh.
Gwen, karibu sana to the TruthBeTold podcast. Please meet our audience and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Charlene, for having me, and thank you, Mali.
Karibu.
My name is Gwen Kinisu. I'm currently the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Prudential Kenya. We are a life and pensions provider. I'm happy to be here.
Yay!
Nice. Karibu. So, welcome to our episode today, Truth Be Told Podcast. My name is Malim Toto Mwanza.
And I'm Charlene Kimara. You may call me Mama Bima Kenya.
Good. So, right off the bat, Gwen, tell us about how you got here, how you got to CEO in the insurance business. We've just talked about how this business has a lot of men in the leadership space. How's that been? How's that journey been for you to where you are now?
Yeah, do you have time?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Please indulge us.
Yeah. So I remember when I got out of college, I had a stint in an FMCG company, and then moved to an audit firm, one of the big five, which I didn't enjoy very much. So every day on my way home, I would pass through City Hall. I think you guys are too young to remember. There used to be phone booths opposite City Hall. So I would accumulate all my coins and call one of my mentors at the time, who was a CEO of an insurance company. And I'd call him every day and I'd ask him, please give me something to do.
Okay.
And I'd call him every single day. And he would pick the phone, a lot of kindness from him. But one day he said, Gwen, don't call me anymore. I don't have anything for you. So the next day I called him. And then he said, can you come? Because he was hosting an AIO conference, African Insurance Organization conference. They were supposed to host it in Tunisia. But the Tunisian government had decided that they were not going to issue visas.
Okay.
So there was then a decision to host the conference in Kenya. So he needed somebody to put together the conference.
Okay.
Now, the experience that I had at the audit firm was very big on event management. I think one of the things that the audit firms do very well is their fantastic training on work ethic and on how to do things properly.
Okay.
So that gave me the competence, I would say, to be able to put together this conference. And that's how I got into insurance.
Oh, wow.
Through an event.
And what role was that? What
It
was your first
was a very
role?
amorphous role.
It's an event planner in an insurance company.
It was a very amorphous role. But I remember at the gala dinner of the AIO conference because the planning committee was CEOs of various insurance companies. So at the gala dinner, I got job offers that night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But my boss, who at the time said, oh, you're not going anywhere.
Yes.
So then he hired me as his PA. And that role was the widest job description you could imagine. Because I said to him, my mom didn't take me to college for me to be a secretary. But I'm really, really grateful to him because he taught me insurance. We would go through the annual statements of financial companies and he would teach me and show me, this is what this means, this is what this means, this is what a claims ratio means, this is what a loss ratio means. And then it was very interesting because if somebody resigned, he'd be like, Gwen, you went to college, right? Not to be a secretary. Then do this.
This is it.
So I ended up doing quite a bit and learning a lot. Then I was offered a job at Pan Africa Life, which is now known as Sanlam, by another member of the committee, because that's how I then met him. Got into Pan Africa Life and stayed there for just under 10 years. But my role, I think, was changing every 2.5 years. Got into leadership, got into a lot of things, but really just a lot of exposure and training into insurance. Moved from Sanlam to National Bank to run the insurance agency. And that was interesting because now I was a broker.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then moved from there to UP Old Mutual, where I was hired to do the direct business, the digital business for UP Old Mutual. Finished with that and then got into Pru. And I have been at Pru, it's going to be 7 years next year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And something that I picked, Mali, and for our viewers. One, the need of a mentor. And the persistence in calling your mentor and telling them, not
especially when they tell you not to call again.
Yes. And when you are offered that opportunity, showing up at your very best to a point that everyone who's there is so impressed, you literally get multiple job offers like during an event. That is amazing. I love that. So how many years in Prudential now, and how long did it take you to get into the corner office?
Yeah, so like I said, it's going to be, I got into Prudential in 2018. I got into Prudential in 2018 and I became CEO 2.5, I think, just before my 3 years were up.
Wow.
And it's been quite a ride.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But there's something you said, Charlene, which I agree with. And it is when opportunity knocks, you just don't open the door. You open the door and walk in with purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. That it's important not to be lukewarm about opportunities and to just give them your best.
Yeah.
I think that's an important lesson, even as I watch the people that I work with. And I get quite inspired when I see people who just grab at opportunities like a dog with a bone.
You dive into it properly. Okay, so is that what you would say describes brand Gwen? What will that one thing?
I don't think it's one thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's one thing. But I know that I have been described, and I would describe myself as being extremely resilient.
Okay.
Yeah, I bounce back from hardship. I'm able to go through really, really difficult moments and times and come out on the other side and I'm fine. The other way I would describe myself is I think I have a growth mindset.
Yes.
I take feedback. I just don't take feedback. I think I action it. I turn it around and around. And and then I think I'm also very cerebral. I was a geek, still am. Still am. Yeah. No, say hesabu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. You mentioned at some point you did digital. You handled the digital space. How has that come along in the insurance space? And I'm assuming this is 7 years back. So how has that come along to date in terms of how we trade digitally for insurance? Are we improving? Are we gaining some traction in that space? Is it even possible to buy insurance online end to end, or do I have to have a person to engage me?
Yes, I would say that when I think about when I started, it's been many, many years. When I tell people, they're like, I've been in the insurance industry for a long time. And I remember when we would try and collect premiums for customers, we used to use floppy disks.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have transitioned from that as a result of advanced technology. Now, I think we do API integrations. Yeah. And we can collect premium on the phone. M-Pesa has launched Ratiba, so we can do standing order on the phone. So there's a lot of areas that technology has advanced and therefore improved customer outcomes.
Okay.
But what I'll say is that I think from a technology perspective, it's important to be able to see the wood for the trees. Technology in and of itself as an investment for a business, I see that as an enabler. I don't think it is in and of itself a solution for insurance.
Okay.
I see it as an enabler. And I think technology without talent then doesn't give you the value that you seek to extract from your investment. So I think even as we invest in technology, we must make similar investment in our people across the entire value chain.
Nice.
So from a leadership perspective, from all then the functional areas that support the businesses that we do. When I think about then how we can participate in that investment, I think about how Prudential has done a great job partnering with IRA and FSD and the UK Trade Hub to run Bima Lab, as an example. I think accelerator programs create a great opportunity to be able to tap into innovation and to tap into new thinking.
Yes.
And again, I'll say in and of themselves, they mean nothing. I think what they do is they enable vision, they enable problem solving, they enable new ways of thinking. And without the required collaboration and partnership with underwriters like ourselves, then they are not useful and functional. So a lot can be borrowed from there. One of the things that really gets me excited and fulfilled is thinking about some of the startups that have come through Bima Lab as an example, where you see the transition from an idea being on paper to it being a fully fledged business that's employing people. And even better yet, when our competition partners with such a business on something we invested in. So that when you look at now that entire ecosystem, then for me it makes me quite fulfilled, because it's saying that if everybody plays their part, then there's a part for everybody. And we then have an opportunity to make real impact.
Yes, and Mali,
Yes.
just to double down on what also Gwen has said. I mean, when was the last time you filled out a physical form?
Do they exist?
I know, right? I mean, we're at a point where even at the distribution stage, you know, as an agent, you're able to meet your clients online via social media, and you onboard them online, sometimes even possibly never meeting, and you're able to use the online apps that are provided by the underwriters, and it just makes that process really seamless. You know, claims, you are able to do them online. So I think our industry, I know a lot of people maybe have been feeling like we were left behind for a while, but I think we are also catching up as an industry.
Tuko hapo.
Tuko hapo.
Or end to end, where if it's hospital bills, if it is a motor claim, you can submit all these things online. So I think we've grown. And I like what you said, Gwen, that it's not the technology in and of itself. There is the people behind it. How has that been for you? The people that built you up already, but also the people that you are helping to move the business and interact with our clients. How is that? Is that increasing, improving? We have agents. We've talked about distributors here, brokers and the likes, but you also have the internal staff as well. So how's that ecosystem been?
Yeah, again, I'd say that there's definitely a lot of evolution. I mean, as a shosho in the industry, I can say.
How many years at this point?
This shosho years.
Because unless you started working at 12 or something.
It's actually been 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, you see? That's the reaction I get.
Okay.
Okay.
Sour.
Yeah.
Shosho. Yes, shosho.
Yeah, so when I think about it, I see there's quite a bit of transformation that has happened. If I can start on where the process starts, which is our financial advisors.
Yes.
I've seen that there's the thing that I'll say across the board for all our people. You ask me, what do I say to them? And one of the things I truly believe in is that personal growth and development is personal.
It's in the word.
Right? It is your responsibility. You are the captain of that ship.
Yeah.
Therefore, lead it, seek it, find it, pay for it if you must.
Nice.
Right? So I think waiting for other people to identify what your career path is going to be, how you're going to get there, etc., you're outsourcing a critical function to somebody who might not have as much skin in the game as you do.
Good.
Okay, so that's across board. Now, when you ask me, how do I think about training and development and upskilling in the industry, I see that the people who are the most successful in our industry have taken that approach. They've invested heavily in themselves. So when you think about financial advisors, I think the most successful are the ones who identify mentors and coaches and who invest in their personal development. So they figure out, how can I get training on how to close?
Yes.
How do I get training to be able to have a conversation about investments across the board, not just on insurance, so that I become a financial advisor as opposed to an insurance agent. And you'll find a lot of content is now available. So the big disruption that has happened is, in my day, we used to go to school to get this knowledge. You had to be in a classroom. Today you don't have to be. And today you can access trainings from the best insurance sales people in the States when you're sitting in Nairobi. That's a big transition. So I find that even some of our top agents in Prudential, they actually know people in Asia and they pay them to train them and stuff. So I think there's that bit. So there's a lot of digital content that one can utilize to be able to access the knowledge and the information that they seek. From a staff perspective, the people who ensure that our customers are happy, for those I would say that I see a lot more customer focus. Today, you have even ICX awards. I never used to see those before. Now we have.
Yes. It's a big thing now.
Yeah, it's a big
service and experience
exactly.
is a massive. Yeah.
Exactly. You see a lot of stuff around that. When I became CEO, I launched what we called a customer obsession strategy. And the idea behind it was, let's get the posture of our people to be customer focused. So that the idea in my mind at the time was, I don't want our underwriter to think that if I've gone through a checklist, because that's the job of the underwriter, that I've done my job. Okay. So we changed their job description to be customer experience onboarding. Yeah. The people in claims, we stopped calling them claims officers. We started to say that they are customer payments people. So that now it depended on whether you are collecting
or paying,
or whether you are paying, right? So I think that has really helped our organization to be top of mind when it comes to service. I get really good feedback from our customers regarding how the team at Pru is serving them.
Yeah.
And that makes me so happy because it's been that journey of 1,000 miles that began with that first step. And I think across board, there's just been a lot more in terms of availability of information and knowledge. So if anyone is seeking it out, I think it's just so much easier today to find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love how central, like, the customer is, even in your conversation, Gwen. And I'm keen to know, okay, especially maybe at Prudential, because we are in a business where, sometimes it takes some time to convince, literally, a customer whom you can feel they are ready, say they have the money to purchase the product or the solution that you're offering them. They're accessible to you. They're giving you time. They're insurable. They have the need, and they do even have that sense of responsibility. But in a way, it almost feels like maybe there's some hesitation, okay? Because there are questions maybe on, are we really, really sure, that maybe this solution you're giving me, say, for lifestyle protection will really come to be honored, at the point where maybe my family would need that the most. So I'm keen to know, because this is something you're very passionate about, lifestyle protection, and your business is really hinged on that. What does it really mean? What does lifestyle protection mean? And how are you maybe doing your part to ensure that we change that sort of like disappointments that clients have gone through in the past so that we get more Kenyans insured?
Okay. That's a big question. And it's really, I think, what keeps most of us in the industry awake at night about, right? I believe that the work that must be done is around creating trust, building trust. The reason why you have that customer who can afford the policy, who's ready, who's responsible, etc., the reason why they're not buying is because they don't trust us. Yeah. And so the work that we must do is to ask ourselves, what are the things that we've done to erode trust? And what are the things we must do to then build trust? So from an industry perspective, the IRA has been really, really big on ensuring that as underwriters, we are responsible. They've gone as far as to ask us to submit the products that we're selling so that they can interrogate them and see whether we are selling the right products.
Oh, wow.
Now, at Pru, there's a couple of things that we do. Number one is, before we put a product out, we take it through such a rigorous process to ensure that we do not disappoint our client. Yeah? We have found ourselves in situations where maybe through one way or another, there are products that were not ideal. And again, I'll say that even in life, mistakes will happen, right? I'm not going to sit here and say we're a perfect insurer because we're not, yeah? But I think what we try and do well is to resolve for the customer as best as we can, okay? And one of the ways to do that is to ensure that from the initial interaction that our customer has with our financial advisors are well trained. So that we empower and we equip our financial advisors to be able to communicate the right thing. And then coupled with that, we give them a product that leaves very little room for the in-between.
Yes.
Right? So I think as a responsible insurer, that's the thing that we do. When we get complaints from customers, we have an independent and robust process that ensures that we investigate and we then come up with an outcome that then can be dealt with. So we take the necessary action and we try to expedite on that.
Yeah.
So I think there's much that can be done around building trust. But even when we think futuristically, I think an area and a trend that we must be cognizant of is how we're going to build credibility, how we're going to build relevance, right? Because if we are selling products that are not relevant, then people won't want them.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's something then that really does keep us wondering, because I think that the right products then will not be so difficult to sell. On your question on protection, I think protection means different things to different people, and it's a really personal question, if I was being honest, right?
Yes.
And when I think about protection, not protection, you asked about lifestyle and protection, that interchange, right?
Yes.
For me, lifestyle is about the dreams that I have and the choices that I make. Okay? So that the choice that I make every day is my lifestyle is around my family and I. Yeah? The dreams I have for them, the choices I have for them, the choice of school that my children go to, the dream of my dream home, the dream that if something happens to me and I'm unwell, that my family will not have to change how we live to be able to pay for my medical bills. So for me, I feel that I've been so fortunate that I have great medical care. And so the choice that I make is to ensure that I can continue to earn so that I can afford that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a choice. It's a deliberate choice, right? When I think about my grandmother, who was very close and dear to me, when I think about lifestyle and protection, it's about when she passed away, what kind of send-off did we give her?
Yes.
Yeah? So that when I think about lifestyle, I think it's about being responsible about the present and thoughtful about the future.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Love that.
Responsible about the present and cognizant of the future. What was that? Responsible of the present and
Thoughtful about the future.
And thoughtful about the future.
got it.
And I love the way you talked of just even the relevance of the products that are being churned out into the market. When we still back on the question on lifestyle protection, because when you are a market leader in that space, you talked of relevant products. And I think for a long time, maybe we had started feeling like the entire industry maybe has the same product, just a different name across, different companies. What are some of those products that maybe would be relevant to that, conversation? What are some of those products that we could say can really help Kenyans, breadwinners, parents, really protect their lifestyles?
Sorry, and as you answer that, is it possible to get out of the conventional solutions that we have, and not just life, business? We have motor and medical, and it's almost like a standard solution across the market. Is that possible? Is that possible to get out of the conventional solutions that are there?
Okay. I'm going to answer your question differently.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer your question from a personal finance perspective and say that insurance should not be seen as a way to make money as much as, in my view, as much as it should be seen as a way to protect what you work for.
Yes.
Okay? So that if you're thinking about protection and you're thinking, okay, so I worked for, as I'm seeing with my parents and my friends' parents, we are dealing with a lot of stuff. So in my close circle of friends, we have buried parents, we are having to fundraise for sick parents, etc.
Yes.
And so when I think about the fact that as we are all getting older, we are going to have to deal with lifestyle diseases. Okay? So when I think about personal finance and I think about wealth creation, if I've worked so hard and I've been able to accumulate 3 million shillings, but then I get cancer and I spend 5 million shillings on treatment.
You're negative.
Exactly. Some data that I was looking at says that healthcare in Africa sends people back to poverty. Yes. So the way I see insurance is, I see insurance as that thing that will prevent you from going back to poverty.
Okay.
And for a lot of us in Kenya, in Africa, poverty is here. Yeah? That one blip, that one life occurrence sends you right back.
Yeah.
So when you ask me about how do I see insurance, what's the relevance of it, I see that as its relevance. That if a critical illness hits, you shouldn't become destitute. You shouldn't have to sell your land. You shouldn't have to, I mean, if you fundraise and your friends come through for you, great. But I don't know about you. I am so tired of being included in WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
Without even being asked. You're just constantly being included, right? Yeah. So I think we have a personal responsibility to make sure that our personal financial planning, where we can, because if you can't, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
Yes.
But where you can, to be able to do it. If you have a car and you get into an accident and insurance pays for a bit of it and you have to pay the excess, you shouldn't have to borrow. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you have third party, then you will have to borrow.
Yes.
Or you will have to ground that car. So again, it's about protecting what you work hard for. So if you're working hard to have that car, to have that home, then please insure those things.
Yeah.
Because when people say, there's never been a fire here.
Yes.
Or KPLC has never burnt down my house.
Yeah.
But the day it does, then what happens? So I think thinking about stuff like that is important. Thinking about getting cover on your parents is important. Thinking about getting cover for yourself. Now, when you ask me which are some of the products I think are critical, I obviously have to talk about the work that I do at Prudential. And one of the products that I'm really, really proud of. Now, obviously, when you have children, you can never show them who your favorite is.
Are you about to show us? Are you about to tell us?
But I do have a favorite. Yes. And my favorite Prudential product is a whole of life product that allows you to have cover. It's a legacy product, but it has the option for you to cover yourself against a critical illness. And the critical illnesses could be cancer, could be a stroke, could be a host of things.
Okay.
So we provide customers the choice to be able to choose a critical illness. But the beauty of this product is when we designed it with Kenyans in mind. And we said, we're not going to call them peculiar, but we're going to say, okay, let's not, so it covers you for the rest of your life. But we've given customers the option to pay their premiums for 10 years, stop paying, then they're covered for the rest of their lives. That's my favorite product. And the reason why it's my favorite product is because it's essentially saying, if I do not want my kids fighting each other in court for the rest of their lives or until they are gray, I give them this funeral policy, this whole of life policy. And when I pass on, because I will, in 90 days, they have the money.
Yeah.
I don't think our court systems are that robust.
That to do it within 90 days.
We had the longest case. When did you mention? How long was that?
From 1982.
Yeah.
Still a succession case.
Just about 47 years of ongoing cases.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so the reason I like it is because it's relevant. To what I said earlier, are we developing products that are relevant? It's relevant. It pays. We have a good track record of paying claims as long as the claim is payable.
Yes.
And also that it's simple to understand. Yeah. So it is as simple as you get a critical illness, we pay.
Yes.
You pass on, we pay. But you have ensured that and this is especially for parents who might be watching, right? That as a parent, our biggest fears are, if I'm not there for my kids, are they going to continue going to the same schools? Will they continue to live in the same area? What's going to change?
Okay.
Now, this policy allows you to live confidently that you have provided security for those you love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, Gwen, on that whole life policy, I would say it really speaks of the kind of leader that you are. You are innovative. I know this is us giving you your flowers. And I think even within the business, a few years ago, if you told someone that there would be a company that would proudly offer a pure risk product to the retail market in Kenya, everyone would have looked at you like, Kenyans wouldn't buy that.
Yeah.
But I think you have stood your ground and brought in a product that you can feel is curated for the Kenyan. You know, not the traditional whole of life types of policies, but a product that is very Kenyan specific. And we really celebrate you for that. Because you mentioned over 90-day turnaround time for claims. But being an insurance agent or financial advisor in the market, I have gone through that process in literally under 2 weeks. And, you know, a big check is in a home and you can feel the difference, the gratitude when a young widow actually writes to you that may the destinies of many more families be safeguarded. And I think those are very deep, right? So we celebrate you for the great work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it possible to have a simple insurance product?
I think it is.
Yeah.
But I say that with a caveat, terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, we'll tell you. I think, and I think then, because the feedback that we get is what is positioned to the client's face appears and deems is very simple, but the devil is in the details. And the moment they receive this policy document with 47 pages, they're wondering, okay,
Yeah. To be fair, right?
Yeah.
To be fair, I think. Did you know that it's harder to be an actuary than it is to be a surgeon? Yeah, that you study for 12 years compared to a surgeon or an architect.
As it's continuous learning,
No, the paperwork. So you have to get papers. I think you get...
So full certification is 12 years.
It can take 12 years. Now, on average, 10 years. Some people do it sooner. Now, the reason why I say this is because it is a difficult job to predict the future. So to your question on can we ever have a simple product, the work of insurance is to predict the bad day. That's a difficult job to do. Yeah? Because you must do it with a certain element of accuracy to ensure that when claims day comes, you actually can honor those claims.
Yeah.
So I think, to be fair, it's not an easy endeavor. But I think that the work has begun. The work has begun. I thank you very much for the compliment you've made on the work that we've done. And I'll tell you that it has been a journey. It has been a journey to change the mindset of financial advisors who are used to selling endowment products and to say to them, let's try this True Life. Let's sell this whole of life. And they say Kenyans don't die, right? My personal joke is Kenyans don't die, it's their relatives who die.
That's so true. That's exactly how we think. That's exactly how I think.
Yeah, I should trademark that joke. And the thing about that then is it's been incredibly difficult for our advisors to then keep knocking on that door. So I'm so proud of the work that they've done. I'm so proud of the work that we've done together, that today a bigger portion of our book is actually protection. And I'm seeing that the industry is now trying to do the same thing. And that makes me super proud, because then it means that they've seen that the work that we are doing is also meaningful. And like I said, there is a part for everyone to play. So I'm just happy that collectively we're working towards protection. Yeah.
Love it. And speaking of actuaries, in a recent episode, we had the chief actuary at Ken Bright, and he actually told us possibly in the next 2 or so years, we will see life insurance premiums overtake the general insurance part of the business. What are we really getting right? Because that was exciting for me. It was really exciting to hear. Why is that change happening?
I think, one, it is the people. I think the talent pool around who is selling life insurance policies has improved over time. To your question earlier on training and development, I think the talent pool is richer. So you have, but then I also think that our customer is evolving.
Yes.
Yeah. I find that it's easier today to have a protection conversation than it was 20 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. 20 years ago, when you talked about a funeral policy, people said, oh, you're inviting death.
Yes.
Right? Today, when I'm having conversations, and you guys know this best because you have these conversations every day, and you're having conversations with parents about legacy.
Yeah.
They're not going to cut the conversation short because you're calling them. No. Right? So I think the time is right. But I also think that we're just living in an interesting time. We're living in an interesting decade where availability of information is easier. And through the use of digital platforms, you then have more people with more access to information. So they are able to validate what it is that you're saying.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think that is building trust. Yeah. And the exposure that people have also just makes them more absorbent to what we're selling.
The engagement.
Yeah.
Okay. You talked about consumers, and we've asked ourselves this many times. We always look inwardly when it comes to insurance, as the players, underwriters, brokers, and the rest. But as you've mentioned, we need to think about the client. And particularly as we talk about that, the Gen Z conversation is now, it's nigh. How do we package this information for them? Yeah.
I don't think we can package this conversation for them without them.
Okay.
I think it's got to be done with them. And the role we have to play as an industry is to educate them about the importance of insurance. And then partner with them to then deploy the information.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I see it. That's my perspective.
Okay.
And I think when you start seeing that, when you start realizing that a young man out there will come and even set aside and commit to 1,766 shillings per month. We're not talking of 20K and 100K.
No.
I mean, he already sees the value, and his pocket at this point can only accommodate that 1766.
Yeah.
But he goes ahead because he believes in, I want to lock in a position when I'm still young. I will build on it over time. So I think actually our Gen Zs, they are young, but they are absorbing. They're on these digital platforms. They are very open, and they don't even have the myths and the, misconceptions that maybe the older generation may have, like, oh, it's about calling death. No, they're very practical. They understand that if I have financial dependence, maybe I need to do what, pale mfuko yangu inanikubalisha. But they're very willing to be part of this conversation.
Do we have Gen Zs in the business, in the company or in the industry? Is it time for them?
I think we already have them.
Okay.
I think we already have them. But I don't think it can be done without intention.
Okay.
Yeah. But I also don't think we have to only work with the ones in the industry.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of partnership.
Okay.
That's where partnerships come into play. So I think there's an opportunity there that we can tap into. Yeah.
Maybe could you tell us this, in terms of visibility, a lot of Kenyans may not be as familiar with Prudential, but when they come across the brand, they go like, what? You mean we have an underwriter of that caliber within our market? So please, yes. Why Pru?
Yeah. So Pru is an incredible organization. We have been in existence for 176 years. Somebody told me that insurers need to stop telling people how old they are.
We would have cut out that show part already. So okay, why?
Because somebody said they don't care.
Okay.
But I think why you should care is that we would not be here 176 years later if we were not paying claims. Yeah?
It's actually a long-term
exactly.
It's a long chase conversation.
Yeah. That nobody is crazy enough to put money in a company where claims are not paid before. Right? So our heritage is a heritage of honoring our promises. Our heritage is a heritage of growing talent.
Yes.
Pru was the first company in the UK to hire women. Prudential paid for claims out of the Titanic. If you know what the Titanic is, then I know how old you are.
Okay.
Excuse me, yeah, the actual Titanic. So we are in Kenya. So globally, we are one of the top insurers in the world. And we are particularly in life, health, and asset management. In Kenya, we are in life and pensions.
Okay.
The work that we are doing is about building for the future. I think when anyone wants to think about insurance, I want to challenge them to think about a long-term horizon. It's a long-term play.
Yeah.
And that we cannot build wealth if the wealth that we have will be eroded when we are gone.
Yeah.
If for the time that we were here, it ends with us. Yeah. And so Prudential gives you an opportunity to partner with us so that you can be able to create a legacy for the ones you love.
I like that. I like the idea of long term, and I've worked a lot in the short term business, what we call general business, and ours is an annual conversation.
1 year
One year
contract.
we finish,
Done.
we move. And I've always thought of life business on the flip side, but generally, I think, as you've mentioned, not just because the general insurance is 1 year. I think insurance as a whole is a long term conversation. I will not insure today, and next year I don't. The risk can still be there and is still emanating in time. So I like the longevity or the longevity conversation. So 176 years, 20 years of being in the industry, it's not a short-term conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could have said that we care about the customer, and we do, but I want our customers to say that.
Yeah.
And I remember when I joined Prudential, and one of the jobs I had to do at the time was marketing. And so we went around getting testimonials from customers. And the testimonials were really boring. Yeah?
Yes.
Because they just sounded the same.
Okay.
It was Prudential found me in Ugenya.
Yes.
Prudential found me in Voi.
Yes.
Prudential found me in Kisii.
Yeah.
And the reason for that was Prudential came into Kenya in 2014. Came back to Kenya in 2014 through the acquisition of another insurer. And so we took over the claims of that insurer. But it wasn't as direct as we took over claims. There was actually a strategic decision to reconstruct claims from different books. And if we were taking over claims in 2014, us being in a long-term contract means that by the time the individuals were buying these policies,
The
1990s, how could you reach them?
Yeah.
Going to the chief. Whatever is on their ID.
Yeah.
They didn't have mobile phones, right? So we had PO Box 30 Voi, right?
Yeah.
So reconstructing those claim files required some creativity around how do we find these people?
Yeah.
And so our financial advisors were really, really critical in that process, because they would say, in every village, you either go to the chief or you go to the school. Yeah?
Yes.
And so they would go and say, do you know John Kamau? Which one? Right? And so there is where the search would begin. But we found a lot of the clients who didn't know that they were ever going to get paid and paid them their claims. And that's the legacy that we want to leave in this market. A legacy where we honor our claims and we honor our promises.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we say that what we sell as insurance people is basically a promise.
Yeah.
So to see that finally honored for someone who had probably even written it off in their mind, it's really amazing.
Yeah, we're working on the credibility conversation.
Yes.
There
And
was
the
a
trust.
question. Yeah, we had a question. Are we ready for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So on the podcast, we usually have some quick fire questions from our Gen Z.
Yes.
Happy?
Hi.
So I do have 3 rapid questions for you.
Okay.
The first one, Gwen, you've built a remarkable career in the insurance sector. What advice would you give to young professionals who want to follow in your footsteps and drive change in the industry?
Okay. The first thing I would do is ask them whether they really want to follow in my footsteps. Because it's been a difficult, it's been a difficult journey. It's not easy, yeah? And I'll also say that I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. You've got to be able to just ask yourself what you're willing to give up, because you will make sacrifices, and how much are you willing to give up, and how much are you willing to put in. So what I can share with them is what has worked for me. Yeah. What has worked for me has been, one, the importance of anchoring myself in God. Yeah. That I believe in God, I have faith in God, and that has allowed me to overcome some really difficult patches. Mm-hmm. Number two is to build internal resilience. Number three is to be humble. Learn, take feedback, but most importantly, act on it. Number five, seek out a mentor, and have a growth mindset. Yeah,
I like that. It almost felt like when Jesus was walking, like, are you willing to follow me? Can you take up your cross daily? Yeah.
All right. Second question. Outside of work, how do you stay grounded and maintain balance in your own lifestyle, considering your demanding role in the insurance world?
Okay. Number one is to, again, I'll say, understand what my anchor is. My anchor is God. Mm-hmm. So that's at the beginning. Number two is I really treasure my family. My family is my anchor. I derive a lot of pleasure from them. I will give you an example of what grounded looks like for me. Mm-hmm. I remember one time when I did the International Women's Day and I was on NTV on a panel. My kids were watching at home with their father. And so I did the interview, and when I got home, my kids were like, "Mommy, you lied to Kenyans." So I asked them how. They said, you told them that when there's no salt in your house, it's your problem. They said, it's not your problem. Mm-hmm. It's our nanny's problem. It's not your problem. And so I had to remind them that if salt runs out, she'll call me, and I'll have to figure out how then to get that to her. So that grounds me for sure. Yes. That thing is, I have a very close-knit set of friends who haven't changed over time. I've been lucky that I gravitate towards good people.
Nice.
Yeah. So the friends that I had in my youth are the friends that I have today, and the ones that I've been lucky to now have as my new friends are people who I share values with. And people who don't care about the job that I do, who don't care about what benefits they think they could get out of being with me. So that allows me to be grounded, and they call me out when I need to be called out.
Nice.
Finally, if you could leave one final piece of advice for Kenyans when it comes to insurance, what would it be?
I would ask that they think about some of the things that we say that maybe are not serving us. So one of the things we say is, I'd rather buy a piece of land than insurance. And I'll say that it's not the same. Yeah? Because if you're lying in a hospital bed and you have to go through chemotherapy, that piece of land will not have you treated.
Yeah.
There's a place for every kind of investment. And perhaps by being dismissive about the value of insurance, we are missing out on the value that insurance can provide. I would also say that think about insurance not as a comparison to land or a unit trust or whatever, but think about it in its place. I would say that it's how sometimes for a mom, if you have two kids and people ask you, are you planning to have another one? And you say never. And then in your 50s, you have one. And then you wonder, why didn't I do this before? Like they have brought so much joy and they just came with their own, as Sauti Sol says, kick up, right? So I think insurance has its own place in your wealth creation pillars, and it's important to be able to give it its rightful place.
Fire.
For me, the take home is the longevity discussion. It's not a today story. This is years to come, and I need to start today. Yes. Whether it is 1,766 shillings or the 2 million or the 3 million, whatever it is, I need to start today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Gwen. We really wanted to have you on the podcast. And really, it talks of your humility. I know you mentioned that one thing that has gotten you to where you are today is being humble. And we knocked, Gwen said yes, and here we are. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence, with your brilliance.
Yes.
Because if there's one thing that we hope to do through the Truth Be Told podcast, is really to show our viewers, Kenyans at large, the face of insurance in Kenya.
Yes.
And because when they see you, Gwen, that trust discussion is really in play. People can see we are in good hands. We can hear your values even as a leader within the business.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So that's been our show today. We're grateful for joining the Truth Be Told podcast. My name is Malim Toto Mwanza.
And I'm Charlene Kimara. You may call me Mama Bima Kenya.
And until next time, stay insured.